August 2023 will forever be known as the month where I read every single book that had ever been published. Hi, welcome, come on in. My name is Aoife and today we're saying goodbye to some books. Across the month of August, I read an insane amount of books. It does mean that I have gotten through a significant chunk of my TBR and I've got some books that I don't think I'm going to be reading again. Or I've got some books that it fit into a prompt but I didn't want to pick it up. So why have I still got it? So we're going to go through this huge pile that I cannot even pick up that is at my feet right now, and we're going to say goodbye to them together. We're going to give them the send-off that they deserve, and then they're going to head off to my local library. So first one up is Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. I love Christina Lauren with all of my heart, but this just did not work for me. This one, it was just a little bit odd. I felt like the dual timelines didn't work super well. I didn't really love the characters. And there was just something about it that it didn't have the same magic as a Christina Lauren book usually does for me. So it's not one that I'm going to say hello to anymore. So it's definitely time to say goodbye. Next up is Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. And the reason that I'm getting rid of this is that it's so generic to every Ali Hazelwood book that I think it's time for us to say goodbye overall. And somebody else needs to say hello to her. Somebody else might find this book in my local library and completely fall in love with it. But for me, it's just too much of the same every single time. We have to do something about it. This is one that I'm not going to give to my local library. I think I might bring it home to spend some time with my books in my parents' house. Yours Cheerfully by A.J. Pierce is a wonderful story written about the Blitz and World War II in London, and I really loved it. It's got a really heartwarming romance side plot to it. I have got a copy of the first book back at home in my parents' house, and I think I'm going to reunite the two of these, and then when I have read Dear Mrs. Porter, I'm going to put that one into the list as well. Next up is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This one I did try and read for one of the prompts. I think it was the London prompt, the retelling, and it didn't work for me. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't have a good time with it, so I think it has come to my attention that Greek retellings, Greek historical fiction, it's just not a thing for me. I really gave it a go. I really gave it a try, but it's just not for me. Next up is Animals by Emma Jane Unsworth. To be honest, I think the only reason that I had this book in the first place was that I had found a friend who really liked it and was reading it on our way to like a football training session or something together. I never picked it up since. And she sold it to me really well, but I never went for it. I never went and picked it up and got it in my hands. So I'm not entirely sure that means that I really want to get to this book, and who knows, somebody out there might really want to read it. Next up is The Little Paris Bookshop by Nina George. This is a translation of the German book, and this would have fit in so well for one of the prompts where you had to have a destination or a direction in the title. I think it was for Tokyo, but I didn't pick it up. It had no impact on me whatsoever. I think even while I was looking through my bookshelf to find something, my eyes completely darted over it. And it would have fit into another couple of prompts as well. I think it's like a historical fiction of some sort. So if I didn't pick it up twice for two different prompts, what are the chances I'm going to pick it up again in the future? Next up is Romantic Comedy by Curtis Sittenfeld. I read this, I enjoyed it. I think I gave it like a 3 or 4 stars, but I'm not going to go back to it. I know that I'm not going to go and reach for this one again. I already know what happened. I already know the story. I don't need to go back to COVID times. Not enough that I want to go and pick this book up again. It was fine, it was fun, but now it gets to be somebody else's. Next is The Comfort Book by Matt Haig. This is one that I just know I'm not going to pick up. This is one that has been on my shelf for so long, and I've kind of drifted away from Matt's storytelling. I've kind of drifted away from his books overall. So I think this one is just going to have to go and find a new home. Next is Amy Leah's X's and O's, and I really did not enjoy this. There were a couple of problems with it that I couldn't marry with it in my head. There were a couple of things that I really did not enjoy. So this one's going to have to leave the premises too. I don't know if I'm going to go into any other Amy Leah books. I know I've got one on my NetGalley shelf. I know I've got another one of hers that has come out previously. I don't know if I'm going to go into it. I've heard a couple of mixed things about it. Let's see. She might win me back over, or things might just stay the way they are. Next, I'm saying goodbye to Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. And when I tell you I did not enjoy this book, that is me putting it as politely as I can. There were so many problems that I had with this book. It ended up being a hate read. By like 50% in, I hate read it for the rest of the book. And when you get to that stage that you're just reading it A, out of rage, and B, just to get it over with, do you really need to keep reading a book like that? Do you really need to keep a book like that? I definitely know I'm not going to keep on with the series. And I definitely know this one has to get out of my house. I think I'm going to bring it to my library because I've seen a copy of the second book. I think it's Things We Hide from the Light or Things We Hide in the Dark. I've definitely seen a copy of it in the English language section of my local library. So they can have an entire set now. I just don't need to have it. Next is Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. In a similar vein to The Song of Achilles, I just know that this is not one I'm going to enjoy. This is another Greek historical retelling of the Princess of Crete and the daughters of King Minos, Ariadne and Phaedra, and something about the Minotaur and the Labyrinth. I'm not a Greek history girly, apparently. I think if this was like a Roman or an Egyptian, I'd probably have a lot more time with this. But this just isn't going to work for me. If it's anything to do with The Song of Achilles, if it's got any kind of similar vibes, it's likely not going to be for me. Next is When All Is Said by Anne Griffin, and the reason that I'm getting rid of this is because I spoiled myself for the ending. I was looking at how many pages it was, and I found the last page, and I saw what the ending was, and I'm rage quitting before I've even started. I don't like the idea of this ending. I don't like where it's going to go with the story. I already know where it's going to go. I don't need to take this journey to find out. I think it's a book my dad might really enjoy, but it's definitely not going to be one for Aoife. Next is a short story collection. This is Love and Other Flight Delays by Denise Williams. I read it, I enjoyed it, but I'm not going to go back to it. All three of these stories are super light, they're super fun, they're super fluffy. They're all set within an airport and like airport employees and passengers, and I really enjoyed it. I just know I'm not going to return to it. Another short story collection where the vibes are not as good is the Love to Loathe You STEMinist novella series by Ali Hazelwood. Similar reason as to why I'm getting rid of Love Theoretically. This is the exact same story told in a different setting with a different name and a different cover. Same guy, girl, height difference, same situation. They hate each other, then they don't hate each other, and then they fuck. I don't need to read that story 3 times, but with different character names and a different name. Next is Forever Home by Graham Norton. I had been excited about this when I first bought it. Then I read the first chapter of it in March as part of like a triad chapter, Irish authors edition from my TBR. Didn't love it, wasn't hooked, but I put it on the back burner for like a couple of months later when I knew that I had time and I wanted to get to it. Then one of my real life friends messaged me and said, I saw that you tried this book, I also tried it, and I took one for the team so that you don't have to. And that was enough for me. When she didn't like it, and we have slightly differing tastes, but we both have really loved Graham Norton's books before. When she didn't like it, I knew that this just wasn't going to work for me. So unfortunately, Graham Norton's books are going to have to go. Next is 2 Babysitter Club special books. I really love the Babysitters Club books. I have absolutely loved them for such a long time. But I feel like these would be a great way for people who are just getting started with English to start out, to try it out. They will probably find themselves in the characters. They will probably find so much fun in like going to New York or going to California with your friends. I am a 31-year-old woman with very different priorities and very different situations that these characters are going through. The writing is a little bit kind of juvenile sometimes for me, so I think somebody out there will genuinely love these and I don't want to keep them from them. Next up is By the Book by Jasmine Guillory. I read this for the retelling prompt. It is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, and that was the main reason that I bought it, because Beauty and the Beast is my favorite Disney film. I kind of self-identify as Belle, but I hated this book. I did not enjoy this at all. It was really clunky. The writing didn't work for me. There was no chemistry between the 2 main characters. So you know what? Unfortunately, this one is leaving the library. Belle is going to be so disappointed in me, but I feel like she would be okay with it once she finds out that this book just didn't work. Last but not least is Shagged, Married, Annoyed by Chris and Rosie Ramsey. I had this phase maybe about 2 years ago where I loved their podcast, and then I fell out of favor with it so quickly. I don't know what it was. I think I just stopped listening one day and never picked it back up again. Never went back to it. Found a different podcast that came out on the same day that I was a lot more interested in. And I haven't really picked up this book since. I haven't reached for it. I haven't wanted to reach for it. So somebody out there, somewhere in Germany, might want to read this book, but it's probably not going to be something for me. Right now, my entire bed, you cannot see the duvet. It is literally just books that I want to bring out to my local library or to share with a couple of friends of mine that I think are going to really love it. When you get rid of your books that you unhaul, where do you bring them to? If you'd love to leave me a comment but you can't think of anything you'd like to say, then just leave me the book stack emoji. Don't forget to like and subscribe because I have new videos up every week. Now, get on out of here.